I'm your host, Davita Shinsky, and you're listening to Live Without Limits Dreams Come True with the Right Mindset. And in today's short presentation, we're going to be talking about if thoughts are creating your reality, is there room for improvement? You might not think that your thoughts are that important when it comes to your life, but they are actually one of the most powerful forces in your world. Thoughts and vibrations of energy, and that energy has the potential to make your life wonderful or miserable. Do you ever stop and think about what types of thoughts you are thinking? You are either thinking positive thoughts or negative thoughts, and they certainly play a role in your emotions and behavior. For example, let's say that you think negative thoughts 90% of the day. That means 9 out of 10 thoughts are negative. Whether you realize it or not, those thoughts are weighing you down. Even if 10% are positive and hopeful, the 90% trumps. Thoughts manifest. Based on the laws of attraction, your thoughts will attract things to you. If you think negative thoughts, you are likely attracting negative things, circumstances, and people into your life. On the other hand, if you think positive thoughts, you are attracting positive things, circumstances, and people into your life. Of course, the number of positive versus negative thoughts do play a role. If you primarily are thinking positive thoughts throughout the day, the few negative ones aren't going to outweigh the positive ones, and vice versa. Have you ever met someone who seems happy most of the time? They walk around smiling even when all heck seems to be occurring in life. Why do they think that is? Most likely it's because they have learned how to tap into the power of positive thinking. Even when the skies are cloudy, they manage to see the silver lining and take an optimistic perspective. Even when the bills are piled high, their partners packed their bags and left, and the boss informs them that they've been laid off. They harness the power of positive thinking to their advantage. The good news is that you can too. Your thoughts can manifest your reality. What do you want? What are your desires? Think of thoughts like a boomerang. When you think of your thoughts, it goes out into the universe and it will eventually get back to you, just like a boomerang does when you throw it. The type of thought that you think will determine what it grabs while away from you and bring it back to you. If if it is a positive, it may attract positive things to you. And if it is a negative, it may attract negative things to you. Now, before I go on, I want to talk about this because we all hear about the laws of attraction. But if you look back at the self help industry when it started in the 1960s, and you started hearing the name Eric Berne and games people play and what's known as transactional analysis, all of those modalities are the predecessor to what is now known as the laws of attraction. And what they said, especially in transactional analysis, it it talked about the parent, the adult, and the child. The parent says you should. The adult says I am able to, and the child says I want. And if often As children, you get labeled based on your grades, or you get labeled based on your behavior. And what happens is you hear those things over and over and over again, that eventually you internalize it. And those are the thoughts and things that you are repeating to yourself. The idea here is to change it, to use affirmations, to use different ways of literally changing your thought processes, and think about what people have told you and look back at it. Because I can tell you this much: I grew up with a disability, and because cerebral palsy affects how the brain processes information, what happened was it went into short-term memory, but it didn't really get into long-term memory. And then what happened was, when I would go take tests, I would never reflect whether or not I had really learned anything, or because people learn differently. And in the classroom, teachers have to teach in a cookie cutter way so that everyone gets it. So if you don't get it and learn in the way that they use, which is the auditory and the reading, but what you see, then what happens? You're left behind, and you're labeled, and then you internalize it, and you've replayed those. And if I had bought into what they had constantly told me that I couldn't do, instead of taking it as a red flag and a way to prove them wrong, then I would probably not have achieved what I've achieved, simply because I learned to believe in myself. And I know that as I got older, I had to step back, and I had to look at the things that I had been told all my life, and then decide whether or not I was going to accept that, or whether I was going to go ahead. And I grew up in an era when people with disabilities did not have the right to an education or the right to employment. And the Individual Disability Education Act came into existence in 1977. And in 1977, I was in graduate school. And I entered the workforce 12 years before the Americans with Disabilities Act became law. So that what's happened is that my age group, there are almost very few, if any, people with disabilities that were in the workforce, and or even people with disabilities that looked at self-employment. And yet today, I've met many a person with a disability that has not only in the workplace, but they own their own business. So you cannot go by how you are labeled. You have to look at the things, and you have to decide whether or not you accept it, or if you're going to find a way to overcome those limiting beliefs. Change your thoughts, change your life. Stephen Richards said in this way: a thought is a cosmic order waiting to happen. If you are not happy with your life right now, rest assured that you can do something about it. If you change your mindset, you can change your life. This might sound a bit cliche, but it's true. For some reasons, it is easier to let your thoughts sway negative than positive. Have you ever noticed that you automatically think the worst of some situations? Like when you go to the doctor and have at least a test done. Don't you normally have to fight hard to counter the negative thoughts that come? It's almost like the brain gets hot wired toward the negative. So it is important to learn how to retrain your brain toward the positive. How And here is how that you can begin to change your thoughts and create a wonderful reality. monitor your thought life. The first thing that you can do to change your thought life is to monitor your thoughts for a day or two. Observe what types of thoughts are running around in your brain. When something occurs, what side of the coin does your brain automatically roll to, positive or negative? As you observe, take note of the negative thoughts that come. Write them down. 3. My finger is not working here, so let's do it this way. 3 things that you have to do to live life feeling empowered. Change negative thoughts into positive thoughts. Take your negative thoughts and turn them into positive ones. For example, you tend to think a thought like this is a lot. I never seem to get ahead. I want you to write that down and then cross it out. Then write the positive statement to counter out such a thought. I am getting ahead more and more each day. Speak your thoughts out loud. Then make yourself think this thought and even speak it as often as you can. Repetition is key when you are learning to retrain your brain. You might have to meditate on this thought and speak it for weeks before it actually becomes a habit. It takes 21 days to become a habit. So if realize that and work on it, and eventually what happens is it'll automatically start becoming such a habit that you'll even forget that you've ever had those negative thoughts. Take all your negative thoughts and perform the activity. You might even want to make a positive affirmation list that you read out loud daily at various times throughout the day. By doing so, you are not only rewiring your brain, but the positive thoughts are going out into the universe, attracting other positive things into your life. You are what you think. Your life today may very well reflect all the thoughts that you have thought up until this day. Sure, some things have occurred that may have contributed to your life as is, but may also be your subconscious thoughts that have been playing a huge role in where you are right now. Knowing this now, it is your choice and chance to start thinking new thoughts today that will manifest a more peaceful, abundant, and joyful life from here on out. Make a commitment to today to being more of a witness to your thought life in changing the negative to positive as often as you can. Retraining your brain is possible, but it does take effort and time. Be patient as you continue to create the kind of life that you truly desire. And also, I want to tell you that I have a 5-day challenge, and that challenge is called Change Your Thoughts, Transform Your Life. And the purpose of it is to help you recognize what triggers those negative thoughts and how to, your unconscious thoughts affect the way you think and affect the negativity that you surround yourself with. So day one, we're going to be talking about your unconscious thoughts and their effect on your behavior. The second day, we're going to talk about those toxic relationships where you're constantly being fed all that negativity and how to recognize it and how to get rid of it out of your life. For one thing, I can tell you this much. Growing up in the home that I had as a child, I had a father that was physically abusive, and I don't think there was ever a day that I ever heard from him that I love you as while I was a child. And that can be very detrimental to a child. And then I had a mother that was always verbally and emotionally abusive and always told you what you couldn't do and never encouraged you to achieve anything because she was holding all her children back so that she would never be left alone. And then the third day, we're going to talk about the workplace culture and communication and the different behavioral styles because how you communicate can affect the person that you work with and it can make it a toxic environment. Then the fourth day, we're going to talk about how to change those negative thoughts into positive ones. And on the fifth day, we're going to review everything and we're going to also tell you where do you go from here. Now, if you're interested, I'm also offering a 8-week mastermind intensive that will help you overcome those negative thoughts. And to take part in the challenge, go to changeyourthoughtschallenge.com/join the challenge. And I hope to see you there.